Everyone, by request, I've had a couple of people ask me, actually quite a few, to show you how this Ranger white embossing PUFFS works. And I played around with it, and literally I just stamped it once. And from what I could tell so far, and I did try it on dark paper, because the one that I have is white, I thought this would be great for snow scenes, winter scenes, all sorts of things like, you know, cuffs of winter coats on images, maybe Santa's. It's akin to flocking. It has a similar texture, and I'm going to show you one right now. So what I have is just a scrap piece of black American Crafts paper, and it does have a little bit of texture on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my embossing buddy just to get some of the oils off. And I also have another one that's best embossing tool ever, and this one has a lot of the powder that comes through, so I'm not going to use it on this one spot, but there are different things that you could use to get the oils and residual embossing powders not to stick. You can also use excuse me, a recycled dryer lint sheet. So there's, you know, softener, dryer softener sheet. So I'm going to use this cute little hamburger stamp. And my Versamark looks atrocious, but it's still juicy and perfectly fine to use. So, and the way that I apply inks as well as Versamark is small tapping motions. So I take my smaller stamps, I take to the pad. Bigger stamps, I take the pad to the stamp, if it makes sense. So I'm just going to tap it all over, turn it over to make sure it's nice and juicy looking, and then make the impression on the paper. Even pressure. If you have, see, I can show you what that looks like. So you can see all the juiciness. So I'm just gonna put this aside, and I just have a piece of printer paper ready to put my stamped image onto, and then throw this embossing on. And be generous, because there's no waste. That's why you're using it on something, because you can pick this up, tap off the extra. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take it off frame and just blow on it too. So that's what that looks like. And let me return my, and then because I have it bent in the middle, it just funnels back into the container. So no waste. And I do always close this back up in case there's a spill. You certainly don't want to emboss your desktop. So I'm going to go back, and I don't know if you could see, but there's this very fine film, even though I used my embossing buddy, on the black cardstock. So let me show you what happens. It's going to be a little loud, so I won't speak until this is finished, and then I'll show you what happens to the cardstock. So I'm going to heat my gun up a little and then emboss it. Actually, don't emboss having this lie down on your craft mat. Craft mats are not heat resistant. They will buckle and warp. Okay, now do you see what happened to the cardstock? It looks like the paper has burnt. It actually hasn't. Those are the very fine particles of the embossing powder that puffs. Let me show you what happens. It clears away. So I'm just gonna rub it with your finger, with a little paper, dry paper towel. So this is what you, ooh, and you get on your fingers. The result is, it's kind of like regular embossing powder, kind of like flocking. It's like a mix of flocking, regular embossing powder, and that rubberized covering that's on some of the Kane Company sheets, paper sheets. I'm trying to remember which. Que Sera Sera. There's a couple of sheets on Que Sera Sera that have this like a rubberized impression on some of the images. That's a little similar to this. But it is a really cool effect, and I think this is going to look great on darker color cardstock. And I'm going to try it on white as well. I have an idea for a card. So stay tuned. I'll show a card in a separate video. Some of the Stampers Best. I got really pretty church scene, but this is, I just wanted to give everybody a quick heads up because I had received so many questions regarding the white embossing puffs. And I'm not sure whether this comes in other colors. I just happened to get this through Michelle's Scraps online store when I placed my matte stacks or paper stack order. So there you go. That's what that looks like. If you have any questions for me, please leave me a comment. If you have an opportunity to pick one of these up, I think you would really enjoy playing with it. It's an interesting effect that's different than just regular embossing. If you have any questions for me, please leave me a comment. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching.